You didn't snap because something huge happened today. You snapped because someone left a dish in the sink, or because your phone buzzed at the wrong moment, or because the Wi Fi froze right when you needed it most. And then you wondered, why am I so angry? Why am I so tired? Nothing really happened. But that's the thing. A lot of small somethings happened, and your brain kept count of every single one. Today, we're going to talk about something most people never notice. The way stress doesn't usually arrive in one dramatic wave. It builds, slowly, quietly, from things so small you barely register them. A rude comment in the morning, a tight pair of shoes, a long line at the coffee shop, an email that felt slightly passive aggressive. None of these feel like a big deal in the moment. You shrug them off. You tell yourself it's fine. But your brain doesn't shrug them off. Your brain logs them. And at the end of the day, when you finally sit down and feel this heavy, foggy, unexplainable exhaustion, it's because your nervous system has been absorbing tiny hits all day long without a single break. Let me take you through a very ordinary day. You wake up and your alarm feels aggressive. Not a big deal, right? But your body just jolted out of sleep, and before you even open your eyes fully, cortisol has already started rising. Then you grab your phone. 3 notifications. One from work, one from a group chat, one from an app you forgot existed. Each notification is tiny, but each one asks your brain to switch context, to make a decision, to respond. You haven't even brushed your teeth yet, and your mind is already multitasking. You get ready. You can't find your keys. Minor frustration. You leave the house. Traffic is a little worse than usual. Minor frustration. You arrive at work, and someone asks you a question before you've even sat down. Minor frustration. You open your laptop, and there are 14 new emails. Each one is small. Each one is manageable. But together, they create this low hum of pressure that sits behind your eyes and doesn't go away. By lunchtime, you've handled maybe 40 or 50 tiny decisions, tiny frustrations, tiny social negotiations. You haven't had one single dramatic crisis, but you feel drained. You feel like you've run a marathon even though you've barely left your chair. And the worst part is, you can't explain it. You can't point to one thing and say, that's why you're tired, because it wasn't one thing. It was all of them, together, piled on top of each other like invisible bricks. Here's what's happening inside your brain. Every small stressor triggers a small cortisol response. Cortisol is your body's built-in alarm system. It's not evil. It's not your enemy. In fact, it's incredibly useful when there's a real threat. It sharpens your focus, floods your muscles with energy, and prepares you to act. The problem is, your brain can't always tell the difference between a lion chasing you and a coworker sending you a vague email that says, "We need to talk." Both activate the same system. Both release cortisol. Both put your body into a low-grade fight or flight state. Now imagine that happening 30, 40, 50 times a day. Not dramatic spikes, just tiny, repeated elevations. Like someone flicking you on the arm once. Doesn't hurt. But imagine being flicked on the same spot every 10 minutes for 12 hours. By the end of the day, that spot is bruised. That's what's happening to your nervous system. The small things are bruising you from the inside, and you can't even see it. And here's the cruel irony. We're told to not sweat the small stuff. We're told to toughen up, to have thicker skin, to stop being so sensitive. So we ignore the small things. We push them down. We tell ourselves we're overreacting, but pushing them down doesn't delete them. It just moves them out of your conscious awareness and into your body. Your jaw clenches at night. Your shoulders stay tight, even when you're resting. Your stomach churns before you even realize you're anxious. Your sleep gets lighter. Your patience gets shorter. Your ability to enjoy simple pleasures starts fading. And you don't know why, because nothing big happened. But 1,000 small things happened, and you never gave yourself permission to feel any of them. This is where the cycle gets really sneaky. Because when you're carrying all this invisible tension, you become reactive. Something small triggers you, and the reaction feels way too big for the situation. You yell at someone you love over something that shouldn't matter. You burst into tears in your car over a song. You feel this sudden wave of rage when someone chews too loudly, and then you feel guilty. You think, what is wrong with me? Why can't I handle normal life? But nothing is wrong with you. You've just been handling too much without stopping. Your cup was already full. That last drop didn't cause the overflow. Every drop before it did. There's another layer to this that rarely gets talked about. Small stressors don't just stack up during the day, they also follow you into the night. You lie in bed and your mind starts replaying things. Not big traumatic memories, small ones. That awkward thing you said in a meeting, the look someone gave you, the text you sent that they didn't reply to. Your brain is trying to process all these little unresolved moments, but it can't finish because there are too many of them. So instead of resting, your mind keeps spinning. You fall asleep late, and the sleep you do get isn't deep enough to repair the damage from yesterday. So you wake up the next day already depleted, already behind, already carrying yesterday's tension into today. And the cycle starts again. If this sounds familiar, I want you to know something. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are not bad at handling life. You are a human being living in a world that asks more of your nervous system than it was ever designed to handle. We process more information in a single day than our ancestors processed in an entire year. We navigate more social interactions, more decisions, more sensory input, more noise than any generation before us. And we do it while sleeping less, moving less, and connecting in person less. Of course you're tired. Of course you're overwhelmed. It would be strange if you weren't. So what do we do about it? Because I know you're not here just to hear that life is hard. You already know that. You want to know if there's something you can actually do. And the answer is yes. But it's not what most people expect. The answer isn't to eliminate all small stressors. That's impossible. The answer is to start noticing them, to stop pretending they don't affect you, to build tiny moments of recovery into your day so your nervous system has a chance to come back down before the next wave hits. Think of it like this. If you were carrying a heavy backpack and someone kept adding small rocks to it every few minutes, at what point would you say stop? Most of us would never say stop because each individual rock is so small. It feels silly to complain about a pebble. But after 200 pebbles, you can't walk anymore. The practice isn't to prevent people from adding pebbles. The practice is to notice the weight, to pause, to set the backpack down for a moment, to take out some of the rocks you've already been carrying, to give your shoulders a rest before picking it back up. In practical terms, this means learning to name what you're feeling in real time instead of dismissing it. When someone cuts you off in traffic and your chest tightens, instead of saying it's nothing, you can say to yourself, "That bothered me." That's all. Just acknowledgement. You don't need to confront anyone. You don't need to journal for an hour. Just notice. That small act of noticing actually helps your brain process the emotion instead of storing it. It's like letting a little steam out of a pressure cooker before it builds to the point of explosion. It also means giving yourself transitions. One of the reasons small stressors pile up so aggressively is because we move from one thing to the next without any buffer. We go straight from a stressful meeting to scrolling our phone to a difficult conversation, to watching a show, to checking email. There's no space, no gap, no moment where your brain gets to say, okay, that last thing is done, I can let it go now. Transitions are powerful, even 60 seconds of silence between tasks, even 3 deep breaths before opening a new app, even stepping outside for a moment just to feel air on your face. These tiny pauses act as release valves. They don't erase the stress, but they prevent it from layering on top of itself unchecked. And then there's the matter of what you expose yourself to voluntarily, because not all small stressors come from the outside world. Many of them come from choices we make without realizing their cost. Scrolling through 50 negative news headlines, reading comment sections full of arguments, watching content that makes you feel anxious, envious, or inadequate, staying in group chats where you feel obligated to respond but never actually enjoy the conversation. Each of these is a small stressor you chose, or at least didn't choose not to engage with. And I'm not saying to cut everything out. That's not realistic. But I am saying that awareness matters. When you notice that something is consistently leaving you feeling drained or tense, that's important information. Your body is telling you something, and you're allowed to listen. Let me talk about something that might surprise you. One of the biggest sources of small daily stress is actually self-criticism. That running commentary in your head that says you should have done better, you should have known, you should be further along by now. That voice is relentless, and it is one of the most potent generators of cortisol in your entire life. External stressors come and go, but that internal voice follows you everywhere, into the shower, into bed, into moments that should be peaceful. And because it sounds like you believe it. You think it's truth. But a lot of it is just habit, a pattern your brain learned a long time ago and never unlearned. And just like any habit, it can soften with practice. Not by fighting it, not by yelling at yourself for being self-critical, which would just be more self-criticism, but by gently noticing it, by saying, there's that voice again, and choosing not to obey it every single time. Here's something I find really important to say. If you've been feeling overwhelmed for a long time, if the weight of small things has been building to a point where it's affecting your sleep, your relationships, your ability to function, or your desire to keep going, please consider talking to someone, a counselor, a therapist, a doctor, a trusted person who can hold space for what you're carrying. There is no weakness in asking for help. In fact, it's one of the bravest things you can do. Your brain is an organ, just like your heart. If your heart felt heavy and tight every day, you'd see a doctor without hesitation. Your mind deserves the same care. Now let's come back to something hopeful. Because this isn't a story about how life is overwhelming and there's nothing you can do. This is a story about awareness, about the fact that once you can see the pattern, you can start to change it. Not overnight, not perfectly, but slowly, gently, one small thing at a time. Your brain is remarkably adaptable. It learns from repetition. If you've spent years absorbing small stressors without recovery, your nervous system has learned to stay in a state of tension. It's become your baseline. But that baseline can shift. When you start building in moments of pause, moments of genuine connection, moments of doing nothing at all, your brain begins to learn a new pattern. It learns that not every moment requires a VAT response, that not every notification requires immediate attention, that not every discomfort requires fixing right away. It learns to tolerate a little bit of discomfort without escalating into full-blown stress. And over time, that changes everything. Not because life gets easier, but because your capacity to hold it expands. I want to share one more thought before we close this out. The small things that stress you out aren't always negative. Sometimes the small things that pile up are things you're doing for other people. Saying yes when you want to say no. Smiling when you want to be quiet. Performing cheerfulness when you're running on empty. These are acts of kindness, and they come from a good place. But even good things become heavy when there are too many of them, and you never refill your own tank. Caring for others is beautiful, but you cannot pour from a cup that has been empty for weeks. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's the thing that makes everything else sustainable. If this video resonated with you, if something here felt like it was describing your exact life, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Sometimes just knowing that other people feel the same way makes the weight a little lighter. And if you know someone who's been carrying a lot of invisible stress lately, maybe share this video with them. Not to fix them, just to let them know they're not alone. The small things matter. They matter enough to be noticed. They matter enough to be felt. And they matter enough to be gently set down, one by one, so you can breathe again. Thank you for being here. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome. We talk about the brain, about emotions, about the quiet struggles that don't always have a name. Consider subscribing if you'd like a place to slow down and reflect once in a while. There's no pressure. There never is here. Take what helps, leave what doesn't, and be gentle with yourself today. You've been carrying more than you